Hey guys, what's happening? So now with jumping back into Future State, and in this case getting into Shazam number 1, I'm gonna do my best to not give you timeline whiplash with this one, because I'm gonna be referencing a bit of Future State Teen Titans with this one, as well as some Future State Flash, but for the most part, just keep in mind that this story is grounded in 2029. So even though we'll go back and forth a little bit, just keep 2029 in your mind. But with that being said, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week, and don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so jumping in, we get a bit of this flashback to the Roy Harper Academy, which essentially is your Teen Titans Academy, just renamed in honor of Roy Harper, but with us getting a glimpse at this academy, which for starters we know didn't end well because of the way that Future State Teen Titans is starting out with the academy destroyed. So with knowing that and seeing the flashback, it's kind of like, oh, here it comes. But then after that, we see Amanda Waller speaking with Madam President and addressing the president about Task Force X, saying that they can handle war, they can handle death, but this right here, this right here is something else. But at this point, as far as the details of what exactly happened, both in New York then later in Detroit, the first issue of Future State Teen Titans leaves us on this cliffhanger with us seeing Shazam with the Titans after they had used the Spear of Destiny to draw the 4 riders into one place, but we have yet to see how that had quite ended. And with that said, going into Future State Shazam, there's a bit of this 2-year mystery from 2027 with Titans going into 2029 with Shazam. But so far in Titans, which is just one issue right now, Raven has tried to go back as far as viewing the memory and seeing what exactly happened, because when Titans jump in, a bunch of people are just gone, they bit the dust, literally. But with Raven looking back and trying to see things in detail, she's not able to, and 2 years later when we get this flashback from Shazam, it just briefly skips through starting from the Roy Harper Academy, and next thing you know, Shazam's in hell. But even with that, I will say, with as obscure as this beginning is, eventually it does start to materialize throughout the issue. But what we come to find out is as far as this flashback that showed us the moments from the Academy to Amanda Waller, which likely is also reference to Checkmate, but then going from Amanda Waller to the demons to Shazam appearing in hell, these memories played through within a sequence within his nightmare until eventually Shazam's woken up by a call from Mary, of which he just ignores. But right after that, we then jump over to the JLA bunker, to where the question he's playing these stolen messages from Billy's phone, and messages that are likely from his sister Mary, with her reaching out and saying they haven't talked about what happened to their brother Freddy. But what's funny is the way that the question presents this to Vixen. And with the way he does it, I imagine him whispering to her yo, Shazam been acting weird, man, he ain't answering his phone. He ain't talked to his family in years. He jumps straight out of his seat every time there's a trouble alert. He's been avoiding the other leagues for months straight. And on top of that, when's the last time you seen him turn into a little kid? And with saying this, Vixen, her response is I tell you what's weird. First of all, you still in this little boy messages, what you doing, bruh? But with the question having his suspicions, it kind of lets us know early on that something's not right. But then after bringing this to Vixen's attention, when they then go to meet the others and Shazam's you're late, and the question's sorry Billy, and immediately Shazam's don't call me Billy, which isn't too much of a throw off because Miss Martian was on pretty much the same thing not too long ago. But then on top of that, the question's suspicions then start to play through, immediately after when there's a trouble alert, and Shazam's the only one freaking out about it. But as it turns out, this was an alert that was set off in Iron Heights Penitentiary by Giganta, who shows up with the Manhunter robot. And as far as the Manhunter robots, at one point they were one of your space sentinels, which were created by the Guardians of the Universe, but it wasn't long before their programming had went from catching bad guys to just annihilating all bad guys. But with Giganta coming here with this Manhunter robot, I'm sure it's not any specific one like Manhunter Lud, to where in his case, all I really remember about him is he put a patch over his eye so nobody knew who he was. That was just disguise. And his programming veered from the other Manhunter robots. I really don't remember why, but I don't think this is him. I'm pretty sure this is just a random Manhunter robot. But what we come to find out with the two of them coming here to Iron Heights Penitentiary is that they've come here to break out Creeper. And Creeper's one of those characters who has a very unique backstory. He started off in Gotham, and he was either a newscaster or a TV host, and at some point after doing an interview with nanocell therapy, which is where he had then got his abilities with speed, strength, healing factor, and agility. But he's definitely one of those characters who's had many origins over the years. But even with that, what could be interesting, and it may be nothing, but I feel I still gotta say it. But what I find interesting is that I'm pretty sure this guy died once or twice over the years. And I guess the same could be said for the question, depending on which version of the question that we're dealing with here, don't really know. Like, I want to say it's Vic Sage, the question, but Vixen's kind of got me second guessing that. But either way, because it isn't too long before Shazam and the others show up, and Giganta tells Shazam and the others that Creeper is a citizen of Kahndaq and Black Adam has ordered his extradition. And for a minute Shazam's like he's not the man that you remember, and I'm not really sure if he's referring to Black Adam or Creeper, because the same could be said for either one, especially with Creeper kind of doing the hero thing for a little while. But even still, he was a hero named Creeper. Like, that wasn't gonna last. But in response to Shazam, who they addressed as Billy, by the way, which we had seen not too long ago that he doesn't like. But in response, they then tell Shazam, like, you're not the same man that you were either. And immediately from there, Giganta's just like, okay, we're finna fight, so let's get it started. But amongst all the commotion, like Shazam, who of course has the speed of Mercury, he then has this moment where everything's like in slow motion. And within this moment, he kind of has this little talk to himself like, well, you know, when the world slows down, you can kind of do whatever you want and you can handle it quickly with a very underhanded kind of tone while staring at Creeper. But then when everything settles and Vixen's kind of like, where's Creeper? And immediately Shazam just zips right back in the frame and he's kind of like, I don't know, Creeper, where you at? But then right after that, Miss Martian finds Creeper and Creeper's dead. Like, he done got creeped on in the middle of the mayhem. And everybody's shocked except for the question and Shazam. And all the while, mind you, a shadowy figure looks on, who we'll get back to in a little bit. And when this happens, everybody except for Shazam and the question, they're completely freaking out. And they're kind of like, okay, well, how did 3 people get killed under our nose, stabbed with some kind of jagged stone or knife-like object, and not just under the nose, but on the news, it's happening everywhere. But while everybody else is trying to figure this out, the question just looks at Shazam and he's like, Billy, I have a question. Because prior to this point, he's been having his suspicions. But it's here where the question asks Shazam, like, well, how come the drones that are deployed with us going to Iron Heights, like, all of the recorded footage is corrupted, so we have no way to look back and kind of slow it down and see what happened. But when the question says this, like, someone else suggested that they'll help him recover the corrupted data, and I think it was Powerhouse who offered to help, but quickly Shazam was just like, no, we got limited resources, we don't need people going through tapes and seeing who died, out here trying to recover footage from a triple homicide. But then he's like, if Creeper's death shows to be of some significance, like the checkmate investigation, then we'll circle back around to it and see what happened. And from there, that's like the end of the conversation, because he's Shazam and nobody here can take him. But then sometime shortly after, we then see Shazam make his way over to Philadelphia. And when I'd first seen this, I was like, who does Shazam have locked away over here? But when he gets there and he starts telling them, like, you don't deserve this, and you've been a hero almost longer than any of us, I was just thinking like, oh man, like, this is the speech you give to somebody who knows too much. And that's exactly what it is. Because at this point, Shazam also says that his team is onto him, and that eventually his team will find this guy, and he will talk and tell them everything. And when we see who it is, it's Johnny Thunder from the JSA. And really, like, when I turned the page, like, I did not expect this to be the case at all. But in a strange way, it makes a lot of sense how Johnny Thunder, who has this Thunderbolt genie, who he would summon by saying like the genie's name backwards, which was like say you or you say or something like that, but it would make sense with the magic that bonds Johnny being similar to the magic that bonds Shazam. Like, it just makes sense that if Shazam had a secret, and especially if it's a secret that Billy's sister hadn't figured out, then who else to know this deep secret than either Black Adam or Johnny Thunder? But when Shazam confronts him, he tells him like, okay, you know too much, one of us has got to go. But with saying that, he tells Johnny that he's gonna give him a fighting chance, and just when it looks like Shazam frees him, everything blacks out and he wakes up again by a call from Mary. And when he wakes up, he looks like he just crawled out of the fight of his life. But this time around, when Mary calls, he actually picks up, but he doesn't say anything. And Mary can kind of hear him more or less through the phone, like on the other line. And when she tries to speak to him, saying like, are you alright? I can hear you. But then when she calls him Billy, that triggers something and he just squeezes the phone, just crushes it. But then on top of this, later on at the JLA bunker, the question, who is so petty, because when Shazam walks in, the question is like, you're late. And I mean, like, the question could have left that part out. He's just being petty at that point. But when Shazam gets there, the question has recovered the footage of Shazam killing the Creeper, and immediately the question's like, okay, you murdered this guy, like, that's clear. But then on top of that, it's also highly likely that Shazam is responsible for all these other murders that have been popping up, and also the strange disappearance of Jakeem Thunder, who's been missing for a few days. And Jakeem Thunder is the Johnny Thunder that came after Johnny Thunder. But when the question confronts Shazam, like, he flips it around quick, because when the question asks Shazam, like, who are you really? And Shazam asks the question, no, who are you really? And he tells him that he's not either of the questions that I thought he was, because this Shazam killed at least one of them, and the other one got locked up in Arkham. And at this point in Future State, I have no idea what happened to Montoya. But Shazam's pretty much come to the conclusion that the Question, he's not any of the previous aliases which we've known before. But with the two of them going back and forth and Vixen hearing Shazam say that he killed someone, it's here where Shazam just looks at Vixen and he tells her like, I keep telling you, don't call me Billy. And it's here where we jump back years ago, back to hell, and from here I'm guessing we're going from 2029 back to 2027, but who knows. It's future state, I'm just rolling with it. But it's here in this flashback where we see Shazam, who is consciously Billy Batson right here, just to be clear. But at this point in time, after the crazy occurrence, he just wakes up in hell. And when he arrives there, he's greeted by Neron. And Neron is like this fallen angel, hell angel, who usually likes to trick people into deals in exchange for their souls. And when Billy gets here, Neron tells him immediately, like, you don't need to be in hell, you need to be on Earth, like where your powers matter. Or at least in the capacity as Shazam. But on the flip side, Billy Batson, he needs to be guarding the door between hell and the Rock of Eternity. But real quick, I thought the champion was just supposed to guard the Rock of Eternity, but being that it was made from a rock from heaven and a rock from hell, so it makes sense. Which I'm glad to hear, by the way, that the Rock of Eternity made it to future state, because after the conclusion of death metal, I really wasn't sure. But either way, back to Neron, because when Billy tells him that he can't be in two places at once, Neron's pretty much just like, that ain't no problem. That ain't no problem. And he splits Billy from Shazam. And with doing so, Neron tells them that Billy needs to stay in hell, guarding the door, because prior to coming here, Billy has just locked up the Rock of Eternity's most dangerous inmate. So with Billy staying here, he kind of accepts it like it's his duty. But with Neron separating the two of them, initially Shazam can't see and Neron fixes it. And with their first like face-to-face moment, Billy then tells Shazam to go back to Earth, steer clear of the temptations, and by any means necessary, don't let Billy abandon his post. And from there, Shazam leaves, he goes back to Earth, and years later, we're in 2029 where this whole video started. But I do gotta say one thing before we wrap this up, because with what kind of started within Teen Titans, or at least the bit that we've seen that's happened in 2027, like with that, there's been different hints of like mind control or even mind manipulation, which is what I was hinting towards around the 6-minute 20-second mark. Because also, much like we'd seen with Wally West in Future State Flash, which was also back in 2027, 2 years before this story picks up, to where in his case he has a similar type of mind control situation, but also with a far off connection to Checkmate. But either way, who knows where it's going? But I'll tell you right now who probably does know. You. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think down below. And you can leave it in the comments here or over on Discord, either way. And I just got this feeling that one of you guys is going to figure it out before me. Which is fine, because we'll definitely sound off in the video when we all find out. And so now real quick, I just want to give a special shout out to all the Patreons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below so we can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Feel free to share your thoughts and theories down in the comments, and even if you see one that you like, just, feel free to give a fellow Spillmonger a thumbs up. And that way it'll be easier for the rest of us normal folk to see if we got a precog in the chat. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Share your thoughts in the comments or debate it on Discord, link below, and we'll do it again in the next one. Alright, later.